In 2012, a new virus appeared on the planet, turning human beings into ferocious zombies. The National Health Organization soon declared a pandemic and the authorities tried to contain the infestation, but a large part of the world's population was already infected. In the midst of all this chaos, little Abigail and her family are about to flee the city and meet up with her father. He is waiting for them at the airport and will take them safely out of the country. However, when they reach the car, both Abigail's mother and her brother are attacked by a zombie and soon become infected. The girl hides under the car and her mother tries to attack her, until a policeman called Cassius saves her by eliminating the zombies with his gun. 10 years after that tragedy, the world was devastated by the zombie apocalypse and only a few survived, including Abigail and Cassius. The ex-cop fights to protect the girl and also teaches her how to defend herself and hunt in the forest. At that moment, the two are hunting a deer and the girl demonstrates her skill by firing a rifle shot at the prey. Afterwards, the two set up camp to spend the rest of the night, but Cassius hears the sound of a zombie approaching in the forest. Armed with a pistol, he finds the infected man and shoots him in the head, but everything indicates that there are more of them nearby. As a result, he and Abigail are forced to leave the camp and the next day they set off on horseback. During the journey, Cassius goes over his plan to go to an island off the American coast, where he believes it is free of zombies. The journey will take 2 weeks and, until then, they need to gather more supplies and ammunition. On the way, they reach the top of a mountain and see a guy in his car, trying to escape from an infected. Abigail quickly readies her rifle and takes aim at the zombie, but the shot hits not only the infected, but also the victim. Because of this mistake, the unliving son ends up infecting the guy, forcing Cassius to eliminate them both with another shot. Afterwards, the pair inspect the vehicle for supplies, but find nothing useful. The two then decide to continue walking, but they are stopped by a group of gunmen in their vehicle. They recognize the perished man on the ground and deduce that Cassius and Abigail were responsible for it, accusing them of being looters. The group then threatens to eliminate the two right there, but the whole place is surrounded by dozens of zombies, hungry for human flesh. With a common enemy, the group joins forces with Cassius and Abigail to take on the unliving army. It doesn't take long for the pair to run out of bullets, so they pull out their machetes and go into direct confrontation. At the same time, the group of snipers unload their weapons on the zombies, but it's not enough and several of them become infected. Seeing that there is no way to win this confrontation, Cassius and Abigail take one of the vehicles, where there were 2 passengers, Megan and David. With no time for introductions, the group speeds towards the highway, leaving the zombie horde behind. As soon as they get enough distance, the couple explain that they encountered the shooters during their journey to a boat colony. They were told that this place is safe from zombies and the two of them need to get there, as Megan is about to give birth to their child. Cassius warns them that he can't take them there, as he won't risk Abigail's safety on this trip. However, things go from bad to worse when the vehicle has an engine failure and stops halfway, forcing the group to continue on foot. Hours later, the 4 of them reach the nearest town, which appears to be uninhabited. Cassius remembers an old local school and takes everyone there, where they can shelter for the rest of the night. The 4 of them set up a bonfire and Abigail is happy to have new company after spending so long on the run with Cassius. She takes the opportunity to find out more about the couple and they tell her that they came from a farm, but the place was attacked by the infected. Because of this, the two were forced to set fire to the entire property and fled, along with other survivors. A few days later, they met the group of snipers, who warned them about the boat colony and promised to take them there. It was then that their paths crossed with Abigail's and now their only chance of ensuring the birth of their child is to get to this colony. After hearing everything, the young woman promises to help them, but Cassius is against the idea, believing that the only way to survive the zombies is to remain isolated and hidden. Nevertheless, he shows the way on the map to the colony, even though he knows that David and Megan won't survive the journey without help. Abigail is annoyed by her adoptive father's attitude, but Cassius is determined and goes outside to set a trap around the building. As he had feared, far away the group of zombies had finished their meal on the mountain and were now following the group's tracks towards the city. The next morning, Abigail is on top of the building keeping watch, looking at the only memento she has of her family, a photo album. However, she soon hears rustling sounds and sees a strange movement on the lawn near the entrance to the building. The young woman then goes downstairs to see what's going on, but comes across one of the zombies trying to attack her. Thanks to her training, she manages to dodge the attack and strikes back, slashing the infected's neck with her machete. She then runs to find the rest of the group, but another infected blocks her way and corners her at the second-floor window. In one swift movement, Abigail bends down and pulls the zombie towards the window, causing the man to crash to the ground. The effort almost causes the young woman to fall off the edge, but fortunately, Cassius arrives at the last minute and pulls her back. With the place unprotected, the group needs to leave as soon as possible, because the zombie horde is getting closer and closer. One of them reaches the entrance and tries to cross it, but ends up triggering the trap set by Cassius. As soon as he touches the steel wire, a nearby bomb is triggered, destroying the unliving in several pieces. Thanks to this, Cassius and the rest of the group have gained time to escape from the building, but they need to decide what the next step will be. The ex-cop suggests going to another city, but Abigail remembers that the airport where her father worked is nearby and there must be a plane they can use to escape. Even though he thinks the route is risky, Cassius agrees to the plan and they follow the road until they stop at an abandoned building. There, the group sees a car with passengers, but all of them have recently been shot. Fearing that the shooters might return, he tells the group to split up in search of supplies, with Abigail and David going to look in the building next door. They find some cans of food and leave, without realizing that a family was also hiding inside. At the same time, Cassius finds guns in the trunk of the car and everyone heads back along the road to the airport. It seems that the road is safe, but the family that has been hiding in the building is not so lucky, as the zombie gang has just arrived. The family tries to escape, but one by one, they become the next victims of the infected. More hours pass and Abigail finally finds the airport, but there are no planes around and everything indicates that the trip was a waste of time. However, the young woman sees a special hangar where her father used to work and, on inspecting it, finds a ship in good condition. With this, they can reach the colony in a few hours, but some repairs still need to be made to the engine. David and Megan decide to stay and fix the plane, while Cassius and Abigail go to check the facilities at the airport. During the search, the young woman finds an old photo of herself with her father who, due to the zombie incident, probably didn't survive. The girl cries as she remembers her family, but soon pulls herself together and goes to Cassius, who is checking the watchtower. To their misfortune, the ex-cop sees through his binoculars that the zombie horde has followed them and is heading towards David and Megan. The two run desperately back to the plane and David tells them that he has managed to fix the ship, but it still needs repairs. With no time to do so, Cassius tells him to turn the propeller and Abigail, who has never flown a plane before, quickly reads the flight manual and starts the engines. The plane starts to move, but it needs more speed to take off. As soon as they arrive at the runway, several zombies start running after them, but Abigail speeds up the plane and manages to shake them off. Everything is going well, until one of the zombies manages to grab onto the wing of the ship and tries to break into the cabin. Quickly, Cassius punches the man, followed by a shot to the head, knocking the zombie out in the middle of the runway. Finally, Abigail manages to get the plane off the ground and thanks to this, it's only a matter of time before they arrive safely at the colony. However, as David had warned them, the plane still needed more repairs and, just a few minutes into the flight, the ship began to crash. Abigail does her best to land the plane and it crashes into a tree, falling in the middle of the forest. Despite the impact, no one was seriously injured, but now they have to walk to their destination, while the zombie horde is after them. Sometime later, the four of them arrive at an old train station, with no sign of any zombies around. Making sure that the place is safe, Cassius takes another look at the map and discovers that there are still 2 days to travel to the colony. As if that wasn't bad enough, they're running low on supplies and ammunition and have to get going as soon as dawn breaks. The group then rests for the night, with David leaving his wife to rest in bed, while he goes off to investigate the site, taking along a pistol. Meanwhile, Megan can't sleep and goes to get the can of food they found in the abandoned building. Cassius sees everything and helps the young mother open the can. Then Megan gives him one of her sheets as a gift, as a thank you for him and Abigail having helped them all this time. Cassius thanks her for the gesture and confesses that he once had a wife, but lost her when the zombie infestation took over the country. Since then, his only connection to other people has been Abigail, but he still feels guilty for having eliminated the girl's mother and brother, who became zombies. Megan comforts him, saying that he's done his best and now needs to learn to trust other people. She also shows him her necklace, with a photo of her with David and their dog there, who, like Cassius' wife, was also eliminated during the pandemic. The ex-policeman is moved by the story, but then tells Megan to get some rest, because tomorrow will be a long day. In the meantime, David enters one of the train carriages and suddenly pulls out a pistol and points it at his head. It is then revealed that, during the zombie invasion of the school, he was bitten in the leg and will soon become infected. He considers taking his own life to avoid becoming a zombie and risking his wife's safety, but is unable to do so and rejoins the group. The next day, the four of them continue their journey through the forest, but David's condition is getting worse and worse. He tries to disguise it, but Cassius notices blood marks all over his pants and, when Megan tries to help him, David takes an aggressive attitude and insists that he's fine. The group then continues walking, with Abigail and Megan leading the way. Cassius takes advantage of the fact that the two aren't watching and confronts David, revealing the wound on his foot and preparing to eliminate him right there. Even knowing the risks, Cassius decides to spare him for the time being, and the four of them walk until they reach a house nearby. From inside the house comes a man armed with a shotgun, who at first threatens to shoot, but changes his mind when he sees that there is a pregnant woman with the group. He lets everyone into the house, but first demands that they put all the weapons away in a box. After that, the guy introduces himself as Norden, a scientist who has used his knowledge to create a geothermal energy source and thus live normally in the middle of the forest. He then invites everyone to stay at his house to eat and rest until they can resume their journey. After the meal, the scientist invites them to drink in the living room and tells them about how he survived alone in the forest. In the middle of the conversation, the guy changes the subject and says that the zombie virus was an important step in the evolution of humanity. It has served to reduce the population on Earth, and only the strongest will be able to survive. Everyone finds this conversation very suspicious, and David, who is getting worse and worse, starts to feel sick and goes to the bathroom. Looking in the mirror, he sees that the infection is spreading throughout his body and he has no time left. He then returns to the room, only to find Megan, Abigail and Cassius unconscious because the drink Norden gave them contained a sleeping pill. David tries to attack him, but he triggers a gauntlet he created, capable of emitting sound waves to contain the infected. He takes David and the others to his secret laboratory, where he shows them the gauntlet. Thanks to his invention, he has managed to keep the zombies away from his property and intends to use the group as guinea pigs in his experiments. To begin with, the scientist releases his wife, who has also been infected, from a cage and orders her to attack the group. However, Cassius and Abigail manage to stop her with a kick, and David, who is becoming infected, develops superhuman strength and manages to break free. He then throws the zombie away and goes to help the others, but is stopped by Norden, who triggers his gauntlet. Even so, he manages to free the ropes and the group runs for the exit, grabbing their weapons from the box. Nearby, they find the scientist's vehicle and set off with it through the forest, but Megan warns them that the water broke and she is about to have the baby. To make matters worse, the forest is infested with zombies and, during their escape, they come across a huge tree blocking their way. The group is forced to leave the vehicle, but it's only a matter of time before the zombies catch up. So, in an act of sacrifice, David decides to stay to give them time and asks Abigail and Cassius to look after his wife. The three flee through the forest and David uses his last strength to hold off the zombies. Despite his efforts, the leader of the gang appears behind him and breaks his neck without difficulty. At the same moment, Abigail, Cassius and Megan continue to flee, until they see lights in the distance. Finally, the three of them reach the boat colony and Abigail calls for help, with the security guards pointing their rifles at the zombies. Seeing that the place is being protected, the leader of the zombies orders everyone to retreat, while Cassius, Megan and Abigail are taken to the colony. At dawn, Megan is cared for by the local nurse and Abigail meets the residents, including a young man of her own age called Roderick. She finally believes that she has found a good place to live, but Cassius warns her that they will leave as soon as Megan recovers. The young woman, however, refuses, as she wants to stay in the colony and is tired of obeying Cassius' orders. The discussion continues until the nurse appears and calls for Cassius. Unfortunately, she brings bad news, because although the baby was born without complications, Megan is perishing and only has a few more hours to live. Cassius goes to see her and Megan, in her final moments, names her newborn daughter Hope. Before she perishes, she gives him her necklace and asks Cassius to take care of her daughter, just as he did with Abigail. Cassius is forced to deal with yet another tragedy in his life, but he grants Megan's request and takes Hope into his arms. Meanwhile, Abigail and Roderick become closer and, when evening comes, he introduces her to his friends at a party on the ship. Everyone is having fun celebrating, but Abigail is curious to see the ship and goes to the engine room. Inside, she finds a device hanging, and when she tries to press the mechanism, Roderick stops her because it's a detonator. The young man explains that the members of the colony have set up a plan B and filled the ships with explosives in case the infected invade. Along with this, he also shows an opening in the floor of the ship, which leads to a tunnel submerged in the water, so that they can escape safely from the explosion. The party goes on until dawn and everything seems to be peaceful in the colony. Then the scientist Norden appears and, with his gauntlet, he manages to lure the zombies to the site. Willing to put his plan into action, he takes a boat and sends the infected across the lake towards the colony. Before long, the zombies manage to invade the ships and, even with the security guards trying to stop them, the entire colony is soon surrounded by the creatures. Chaos breaks out and several residents are bitten by zombies. Shortly afterwards, Roderick sees what's going on and tries to help his friends, but is attacked by a zombie, which is about to bite his neck. Luckily, Abigail eliminates the zombie and tells the others to protect the survivors, while she goes to look for Cassius. Speaking of him, the policeman leaves Hope with the nurse and goes after Abigail, but instead of her, he finds two young people, being surrounded by a zombie. Before they are bitten, Cassius eliminates him and continues looking for his adopted daughter. When he arrives on the deck of the ship, he finally meets Abigail again and together they begin to eliminate the infected that cross their path. The young woman then apologizes to Cassius for her attitude and warns him that they need to escape through the tunnel before the ships are blown up. The two run for it, but Abigail is stopped by Norton, who knocks her to the ground with a punch. Cassius becomes enraged and runs to help her, but the mad scientist uses the gauntlet and sends a zombie to stop him. He then throws Cassius into a hole, but Cassius fights back by plunging a knife into his neck. Norton then goes to Cassius and activates his gauntlet, ordering the zombies to devour him. However, Cassius attacks the man and pushes the device against the wall, destroying it completely. As a result, the zombies are no longer under the scientist's control and set out to devour him at the same time. The mad scientist has been defeated, but Cassius and Abigail still need to escape the colony before it's too late. They run to the tunnel, but the zombie leader grabs Abigail and knocks her to the ground. Cassius then grabs an oar and knocks the infected man down, but at that moment, the young woman sees that on his arm is a bracelet with the name Abigail. She then realizes that the leader of the zombies is none other than her real father, but there is no time to lose and Cassius pulls her away. Roderick and the rest of the survivors have managed to escape through the tunnel and have the device, but he refuses to activate it because Abigail hasn't returned yet. Even so, everyone insists that he press it and the young man sets off the detonator, causing all the boats to explode. By a long shot, Cassius and Abigail manage to get through the tunnel before the explosion and find the survivors, but one of them, who is holding a rifle, ends up being infected. He threatens to shoot if any of them try to eliminate him, but Cassius tells him to calm down and leaves his weapons on the ground. However, seconds later, the leader of the zombies attacks the guy and heads towards Cassius, who, without his weapons, has to face him in a hand-to-hand fight. He puts up a good fight against the zombie, throwing punches and kicks, but the zombie knocks him to the ground and bites his wrist. Abigail, knowing it was her father, shoots the zombie in the head, saving her adoptive father's life. Despite the bite, Cassius was protected by the bracelet on his wrist and was not infected. With everyone safe, he decides to go ahead with his plan and takes Abigail, Hope and the rest of the survivors to the island off the American coast, where they can finally live in peace, away from the zombie apocalypse. So what did you think of this movie? Leave it in the comments below. And if you liked the video, like and subscribe for more movie recaps. See you next time.